There's something about completion that always leaves me with an empty feeling inside. What I've come to understand through the years is that completion is the very opposite of potential. It's closing a door. The work is done and it's not going to get any better than this. It's the ultimate verdict on, I did my best and here's the result. It's raw, it's naked, and that can be a scary and brutal thing. In my case though, it immediately makes me want to crack on with new things. In fact, I've already started 3 new projects, all conceptually different, and I am super excited about the songs I've been working on so far. But I'm getting way ahead of myself, so let's start from where it all began, because the point about today is that I have some news to share. Like I said earlier, I've been reflecting, wondering, pondering, contemplating, deliberating with myself, and I have decided to start to write music for a serious release that I will actually put out there under this moniker. Something that you can actually connect to my face. So, first of all, I think it's clear that I don't work fast. Because yes, this video will be about my album finally being done. And yes, it is indeed done, 3 years later. But in this case, there were some mitigating factors to all of that, since I didn't have access to any instruments and I had to leave the country for an unknown amount of time when I announced this. But in any case, I had decided to take the plunge, which was the main thing. I was gonna do it. I was gonna put out music as myself, which, if you're not familiar with my struggles of not feeling like a real or worthy musician, was a huge deal. Writing music, real music, that takes a real musician. And I was never that. I was always just a fan, never a music maker. I just wasn't born musical. Or in a musical home. And I was always just really insecure about it. I loved music, but I knew I wasn't part of them. You know? The musical ones. So thanks to YouTube and me wanting to set an example for my kids about living life from the heart, I never looked back. I even made a video where I went over the sound I was imagining for this album. I also went over what I really love in songs and areas where I thought I would struggle the most. Another central theme that slowly emerged in all this was that it quickly turned into a community project of sorts, much like the channel itself. Because early on I reached out for help and advice, both for the music, but also about making videos in general, because at the time I had plans to make the channel be about the making of this album. So I reached out to fellow YouTuber and, I guess mentor at the time, Scott, aka the Bunn.
Hey Phil, thank you for having me on. So 3 useful traits for a solo creative, a solo musician. I think the number one most important thing is being comfortable with being bad. You'll be able to get through them and get to the good results. And that means doing things over again. This right here, I've done this twice already. You know, I'm working in a new space and I've tried a few different things in order to get what I want done. Being comfortable with doing bad work is, I think, the best way to get to doing good work. Like, technical ability is not creativity, but your technical ability can help you to explore your ideas, to explore the creativity. Most people's very first effort of anything is going to be terrible. Like, you have to be terrible to get good. Some people are lucky, but most people are not. Next thing is curiosity. The drive to explore, to experiment, to learn, to develop a process, getting to your voice, getting to making a mark. There's no guarantees that you ever will find your voice or ever will make a mark. The last thing, we already kind of covered it, but it's really important to know, is the listeners, the viewers, they make the choice. We can't choose who the audience is. As the artist, we should probably have a desire or an interest in connecting with certain kinds of people. You know, we should probably know who our tribe is, so to speak. In the end, the audience makes the choice, and you may actually pair up with an audience that is not the one that you're fond of. Hopefully not, but it can happen. Nerves and doubts about putting yourself out there. I started YouTube to give myself a reason to learn cinematography and make music videos, actually. I didn't want to ever be a YouTuber. That was not an interest, kind of fell into that. I ended up really enjoying it because it connected me with a whole bunch of people that I otherwise wouldn't be. Other creatives, other people interested in similar things. In the very beginning, I could not talk on camera at all. I could only do voiceover for my first 21 videos. I think that was like April 26th, 2016 to March 7th, 2018. I can't remember the exact numbers. But anyhow, it was the PRS 277 video. And at the very end of that video, I spoke like one sentence. And what's interesting about all of it is I never did make a music video. It's something that I'm still thinking about all the time, but I got into this to make music videos and I never made a music video. I have to say one of the huge positives about doing YouTube is that it improved my communication skills and it totally obliterated my insecurities.
Since that video, the Bunn has unfortunately moved away from YouTube, but he did actually reach out to me after my latest Substack post with some uplifting words, which was really cool. And I owe him a lot for what he did for me in the beginning and the encouraging words he gave me when I finally put out my first single. Actually, speaking of that, let's fast forward now to the summer of 2023 and the release of The Hollow. This was the day Heitstrengning the artist officially saw the light of day. I also want to end this by saying that putting the song out, having it out there as we speak, is intimidating to me. It's terrifying, but it's also really cool. I finally did it. I set out to do something I was too scared to do my whole life, and I did it. And I want to credit you for that too. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for encouraging me. Thank you for sharing your thoughts all along the way. Thank you for being there. And on it went from there. It took a little while to get started. I think that's fair to say. And then it took roughly another 2 years to complete the whole thing. So after working on this for roughly 2 years, I'd like to think that I'm in a better place now than when I first started, and maybe also in a position to offer some insights that could perhaps be of some use to anyone else who's also looking to create and release their own music. Before that though, I should explain that I was not working on this continuously for 2 years. I realized that maybe it's been sounding like that. No, I had long periods in between where I prioritized this, essentially. Making videos with whatever little time I had available. I was busy making genres. What happens when a guy in the middle of nowhere discovers drill music, but said guy just can't shake his metal core? You get cobalt core, because metal drills are made of cobalt, and core, well, you know, somehow all genres end with core. I don't know. Start the song. I was also busy combining cult horror classics while talking about my favorite intervals. I discovered plenty of new scales. And of course, lots of other stuff. Okay, enough of that. My point is that I didn't spend 2 years writing an album. I had most of the songs written, or at least half written, by the time I released The Hollow. The thing that really takes time for me is the tracking and recording vocals. Vocals because I don't have a space to do it, and tracking because I'm the worst engineer you can imagine and not a very tight player. So the process of going from fully composed placeholder tracks to album-worthy recordings is by far the most tedious thing for me, and I can't really afford to rent space to do it either. So yeah, some nuance to that timeline. For example, at the time of recording this, I'm juggling about 10 to 15 tracks that I consider worthy of putting out once they're properly recorded, but who knows when that will be. Anyway, I digress. As always, what did I learn from this? Well, let's start by revisiting what I set out to achieve and take it from there. Those things I mentioned earlier and promised we'd return to. With the stakes being what they are, you know, for me, in my little world, I've noticed I've had a really hard time making decisions. What kind of songs should I write? What should the look be? What should the style be? And I've tried to come up with a list of things to settle on, you know, in terms of what the music should sound and feel like. And this is what I have so far. Dark mood, choirs, pagan, guitars but not technical, held chords, ambiance, piano with metal parts, strong minor Phrygian tonality with hooks in major. Try to write hooks for each song, strong melodic peaks. Long and progressive songs, dark, electronic rock with earthly textures, atmospheric, dynamic and varied songs, non-traditional song structure. This is my vision. And as you can tell from this list, this music will not be for everyone. First of all, I don't know how well I'll be able to combine strong melodic hooks in major with a very minor Phrygian sound overall. And secondly, and perhaps even more importantly, just because I love long and progressive songs doesn't mean that I'll be capable of writing long and progressive songs. I need lots of strong parts that make sense together. I can't just get away with rehashing and repeating parts over and over. That means I need to write so much music. And also, long songs mean big projects. And I am limited in what I can mix and produce, both in terms of skill, but also in terms of computer power. And in my head, this is a metal project. And long and progressive metal songs with a non-traditional song structure tends to mean tons of cool riffs. So, do I try to write songs like the songs I've heard before and really enjoyed? Or do I try to write songs that I am actually maybe hopefully able to write? Because I don't really know how to write riffs. I don't know how to write heavy or technical riffs. I write power chords that I then layer harmonically. Also, some of the stuff on the list is really vague. I mean, what do I even mean by pagan? In my head, it makes sense, but does it make sense sonically? How can I combine electronic rock, piano-based riffs, and pagan? We'll have to see, I guess. Yes, we did, and to be honest, I think I did okay here. I'm not sure I really managed to get the electronic element quite right. I think that was lacking in hindsight. And maybe there weren't that many hooks in major throughout, in the sense that I had envisioned when I put together this list, but I think the album is full of both hooks and melodic peaks if you allow a wider definition. For example, for me, some of the hookiest parts on the album would be something like this. So yeah, it makes me a little stoked to look back on this, actually. I had somewhat forgotten about it at some point along the process, but I guess the initial path was strong enough that I just didn't veer. I also wrote down some more stuff when I was trying to set a course for this project. I wrote down what I really love in songs, and that list goes as follows. Long intros, dynamics, atmospheric riffs, melodic, long songs, great singing. Many different parts, mood, repetitive, emotional. I also wrote down some weaknesses I have and things I think will be extra challenging for me on this project. And that list goes as follows. Drums, guitar sounds and mixing, vocals/singing. Not sure how to approach this one at all. Recording, guitar riffs. So yeah, some obvious problems right off the bat. I love great singing, but I absolutely am not a singer myself. Major problem there, and I have no solution in sight. Another one is definitely the riffs. I'm leaning towards not even trying to write those kinds of songs. And like I noted earlier, a lot of what I have in mind will be held chords and slow changes. Aside from the many question marks I have, I also have a few things I feel very settled on. and that I feel great about. For example, I'm going to make this EP my way and really try to write songs that I would like to hear. Rather than getting too caught up in what I think others would like to hear. What this means more concretely is not shying away from building mood, from taking my time to introduce ideas, from going weird places. So yeah, some things don't really change, I guess. Funny enough, I pretty much covered most of this in the video already in one way or another, but one thing on the love list that I haven't talked about is the repetitive part. Looking at it now, I don't feel like the songs are very repetitive at all. Things are constantly changing, evolving, and I rarely repeat parts. And even when I do, I change some element or add another layer for the second repetition, etc. Even songs with somewhat of a chorus have a unique chorus each time. Either words are changed or the energy is different. It's definitely not a copy-paste situation. Let's take Black Circus as an example. Listen to the difference between verses 1 and 2 and the first and second chorus. Painting a picture of beautiful eyes, wondrous but dangerous, where everybody dies. Writing a letter with translucent ink, brand new, just not what you think. Now for this song, I think the variation works really well. What I meant when I wrote repetitive is something more like keeping the song structure and the mood the same throughout the song, which means no crazy dynamics, no flashy parts or emotional curveballs, no long middle sections that change the trajectory of the journey and take us to a new place. None of that, just one singular mood and pace with few variations. Think Atmosphere, the song by Joy Division, as the perfect example of this. This is territory I hope to one day enter in some way without losing the sound and the world I'm trying to develop with Heitstrengning. I think one aspect of this is confidence. I wasn't brave enough to be repetitive because I came into this with a huge point to prove. Another thing here that I haven't talked about so far are the drums. For the first 4 songs, I programmed all the drums myself. In hindsight, I wish I hadn't, because thanks to the videos and the communal aspect I've been talking about already, one day I happened upon this comment. So for the Autumn Letter, the drums all of a sudden became a collaboration. And the difference was stark. The drums improved a lot, and thanks to that, so did the whole song. Sections and transitions came alive much better than before. By the way, I plan on doing videos on each song to properly cover all these kinds of details and share what was going on in the creation process and who did what are the songs about, etc. So more on this in future videos. I know we've covered a lot of ground by now, and this video is getting long, so I'm gonna try to keep this next section brief. But one big question remains. What have I learned? What is it that I wish I knew, and how can I use that to make the next thing even better moving forward? All super relevant questions, and here are my answers. I've tried to summarize them in sort of bullet points. Community and support systems are important. Find people whose opinion you can trust and who want the best for you. Don't be afraid to accept help in areas where you struggle. Communicate clearly and use concrete examples instead of vague words. Be open and don't judge ideas before you try them. Don't waste people's time. Take charge of your vision. Be organized. Label your tracks and mixes. Be brutally honest with yourself without beating yourself up about it. Just try to always make things better next time. Don't be afraid to discard full songs. Don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. If something doesn't work, throw it away and move on. Find a way that works for you and forget about any ideas of a right way. Don't wait until things are perfect. Things are never perfect. There's no way to fast forward any part of the process, so embrace that as a necessary aspect of getting better. Be brave enough to try to understand why some things don't work. If something feels like it isn't quite right,
don't compromise, even if you or others worked hard on it. Trust your gut. This includes music videos, art, merch, and anything surrounding the project and the vision for it. If it's not right, you could end up regretting yourself for a long time. Be smart with your money. You can do a lot with cheap or free stuff if you put in some time to learn the basics. This goes for any part of the creative process. If you don't know what a section adds to the song, get rid of it, even if it sounds impressive. Don't judge an idea before you try it. Keep the momentum of the song in mind. Make full use of the fact that your goal is to create something that sounds great. It's okay to add parts that you can't really replicate live. Write enough music to understand what kind of parts work for your voice and your sound. Complete enough songs to understand why some songs work better than others, and to develop a workflow that works for you. Make conscious choices for your instruments, the sounds, and where to leave space to make full use of the narrative power of an arrangement or a composition. Understand that the function of some parts is to support or set up other parts. Your mix will only be as good as your sound choices going in. Most things can't be fixed in the mix. Spend time getting good recordings. Great sounds are great, but don't always work in a mix. Not every sound can be the star in a part. Never make final decisions at the end of sessions. Your ears will be tired, and so will your mind. Return to things at a later time. Save a copy of the before and after and listen with fresh ears. If you have other things to add to these, I would love to hear about them in the comments. I'm sure I forgot some really crucial or obvious ones as well. I think the crucial ones to take with me into the next release would be to spend more time on getting proper vocal and guitar recordings, and to work with people who can complement me and my weaknesses in the future as well, and not to compromise on the vision out of exhaustion or stress. It's much better to take a break and return to it later. Being independent means being able to take the time to do things right. And with those words, I think I'll end things for now. Like I said, I'll be back with more detailed videos on each song, as well as other stuff in between. As always, thank you so much for watching and for being a part of all this. And yeah, I can safely say that without all of you, none of this would be possible. And this video would not exist, because this album would not exist. Wow. Anyway, have a great day wherever you are in the world, and please take care. And I hope I see you in the next one. Bye-bye.